Comrades all, good evening. It is both an honor and a privilege to introduce tonight's featured speaker. He is a man whose intellect, global perspective, and unwavering dedication to service have already made an indelible mark on our nation. The Honorable Chad Blackman, he is Minister of Education, Transformation, and he is the newly elected Member of Parliament for St. James North. He is not only one of the brightest stars in the new generation of Barbadian leadership, he is also a shining example of what it means to represent Barbados with distinction on the world stage. Minister Blackman brings to public life a wealth of international experience. As an ambassador to Geneva and the United Nations agencies headquartered there, he played a leading role in shaping global conversations around trade, sustainable development, youth, and innovation. His contributions were also felt at the ILO in Geneva, where he worked closely on critical issues of labor and social justice. His voice was not just heard in the halls of diplomacy, it was respected. But his service to Barbados did not stop there. On returning home, he entered the upper chamber as a government senator, where he served as Minister of Economic Affairs and Investment in the Prime Minister's office, roles that sharpened his understanding of governance, communication, and national service. He then answered a higher call to contest the seat at St. James North, where the people placed their trust in him as their representative in Parliament. Now, as Minister of Education Transformation, Comrade Chad has embarked on one of the most ambitious and important tasks of our time, the complete reform and modernization of our education system. With vision, clarity, courage, he leads the national effort to ensure that every single Barbadian child, regardless of background, is equipped to thrive in a fast-changing world. From curriculum design to digital learning, from technical and vocational training to early childhood education, his fingerprints are on every element of the transformation process. And let us not forget, he brings to this mission the energy of youth, the insight of diplomacy, and the grounded compassion of someone who understands the struggle and hopes of ordinary Barbadians. Tonight, we are privileged to hear directly from him, to learn more about the work being done, the challenges being faced, and the bold future being built. So comrades, please join me in extending a warm and enthusiastic welcome to our Minister of Education Transformation, Mr. Chad.
Good evening, comrades. All right, let's do this. Yeah. Good evening, comrades all. Good evening. Comrade Abrams, Member of Parliament for Christchurch East. Comrade Chantal Monroe Knight, caretaker for Christchurch South, and the next Member of Parliament for Christchurch South. Members of the executive of both constituency branches, comrades all, ladies and gentlemen. It certainly is very good to be here this evening to speak to you on a number of matters, mainly, of course, education focus, but to bring to you, yes, of course, welcome Senator Dr. the Honorable Chantal Monroe Knight, the next Member of Parliament for Christchurch South. My task this evening is to speak to you on a number of matters of key importance to the country, but mainly through the lens of education. But before I get into the substance of what I want to talk about, it would be remiss of me if I didn't say and use this opportunity to thank all of you from both branches, both Christchurch East and Christchurch South, who would have played a pivotal and critical role in the recent by-election in May of this year in ensuring that I was elected to Parliament. You know, oftentimes we take these things for granted, but it shows you that when the Labour Party comes together as a family, I repeat, when the Labour Party comes together as a family, you can't come wrong the Labour Party. Because why? Not only is there commitment, there's dedication, There's a camaraderie and a focus on ensuring that the task at hand is completed. And I too look forward to the day to ensuring that my sister, Comrade Maron Knight, walks up the steps of Parliament as the next member of Parliament, joining both Minister Abrams and myself and the rest of the team. I know you got your back for sure. But in addition to that, I feel at home this evening. Why? Many of you would know I'm from Christchurch. I'm a Christchurch man to the bone. So notwithstanding, of course, I'm the Member of Parliament for St. James North, and Heather, you know that very well. And I see Daisy King, of course, who is a former teacher of mine, now the chairman at Foundation School, and a very close friend and a comrade. But Christchurch, of course, gave me the platform to be the person I am today as a young person coming up in the party from years ago when I was in the youth farm, right through. That time you had Joe Edgell, a stalwart in this party, carried the flag for the Barbados Labour Party for 14 years in Christchurch, West Central, of which now Member of Parliament, Adrian Ford, is the Member of Parliament. So I say all of that to say this: Christchurch will continue to have a sacred place in my heart. A sacred place in my heart within the context, particularly also of the party. But this evening, I want to touch on a number of things, as I said, with respect to education. We continue to hear a number of things in the media, online, in the highways, the byways, the shops, the bars, the buses, the homes, on education and what is the future of education in Barbados. And I've come here this evening to talk to you, and by extension to talk the country through a number of things as to why is there the need for transformation? Why is there the need to ensure that we're doing it at this time in a juncture in the history of Barbados' development? How do we get there? And the role that everybody, not just the party and the ministers and the teachers and the principals and the parents, but the entire society, what is the role of everyone in ensuring that we can create an education system that is fit for purpose and that is one that will make us please as a country and provide us with the benefits to transform Barbados even further. And I start there because as a country, this year, of course, marks 400 years that the British would have landed here. They would have settled in 2 years after will be the 400th anniversary of the settling. But this year is the 400th anniversary of the landing of the British here. And we all know the history. I'm not here to give a history lesson. But that history was not one where we had a situation where they brought gifts to us. Yes, they left infrastructure, they left a number of other things. But part of the process of that colonization, it left a certain level of thinking on our society long after they've passed, long after slavery has been abolished, long after we have become an independent nation, and certainly shortly after we are now a republic. And part of the Prime Minister, you've heard us say it many, many times, part of the Prime Minister and the government's vision is to ensure that as Barbados' development continues in the pursuit of creating a prosperous society, one that is anchored in the belief that Barbados can be a country not just in the global commons, punching above its weight, that we can determine our future. We have to do so now with a situation where we transform the education system because it serves as the foundation for all that we will do, both from a level of confidence, critical thinking, and the ability to navigate ourselves and our affairs anywhere in the world, both from the point of view of work and both from the point of view of doing business. And therefore, the transformation journey now comes at a time when the geopolitics of the world continues to change at an increasingly rapid rate. Education certainly does not look the same way it did 30 years ago. The world in which we live in certainly does not look or feel the way it did 30, 40 years ago. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even look or feel the same way it did 10 years ago. And I made that point to say this: if we are to keep pace with the rest of the world and to provide our young children who then grow into adolescence, who then grow into be adults, we have to ensure that they are anchored in a system that prepares them for the world and to give them strong critical skills and values that they can navigate. And that is the commitment of this party, particularly since coming to office in 2018. And it's not just education. You would have realized that from the time we've come in 2018 as an administration, as a party, the Prime Minister, I call her the Great Reformer. The Great Reformer. Because whether it's in Barbados or in the region or around the world, she has taken on the task of ensuring that we can reform the entire ecosystem that causes countries like Barbados and those in the Caribbean and the small states and many others around the world to treat the issues of the climate crisis and how do we reposition world affairs to ensure that we have a fair chance of survival in that regard. When you look at the world financial system, a financial system that has been anchored out of the Bretton Woods institutions post-World War I and World War II, and which were created at a time when many of us now were not even countries, far less member states of the United Nations. We have to ensure that those things are transformed for our benefit and our interests. And therefore, her vision to transform the world, notwithstanding our small geographic land size, and I make that distinction because we're a large ocean state, and that also has to be part of the transformation of the education. How do we see ourselves as a nation? This comes, therefore, as a time when the party has a focus through our covenant of hope to transform this generation of Barbados for future generations to come, so that long after all of us in this room have gone, that this cohort of the Labour Party and this cohort of those who lead this country would have left Barbados in a position to be firmly anchored in resilience, the ability to think critically, and to navigate ourselves around the world anchored by that education system. And you will continue to hear a number of things from the ministry, but equally, you'll continue to hear a lot of things that aren't true of what education transformation is. And I want this evening to settle a number of those things so that you have clear perspectives going forward. So therefore, the critical aspect of where we need to go, and I start here, is to make sure that one, every child in this country, born or unborn, who passes through our education system has a fair opportunity to be able to thrive, to be able to succeed, to be able to navigate anything that can come before them in a situation where that world continues to change. And I've set a very bold vision and mission for us to undertake as a country with respect to education. You would have heard it recently in Parliament when I made a ministerial statement. And that vision is this. This administration has set out, and this government has set out, to create the #1 education system in the world within the next 7 years. I repeat, our ambition and our goal is to create the #1 education system anywhere in the world, anywhere on earth, within the next 7 years. And why are we doing that? In order for us, as I said, to achieve all those things, to achieve being first world, to achieve ensuring that we can continue to provide a quality life for our people, to achieve the ability for us to be competitive and to navigate any circumstance, to provide not just jobs, but business opportunities, that system must now compete with systems that are already in modes of reformation as well. And part of the challenge I've always said of us as a Barbadian people is that oftentimes when we succeed, we pat ourselves on the back, we take our foot off of the gas, and sometimes a level of complacency steps in. And one of the things I want to encourage the country, particularly in this transformation journey of education, is that when we achieve this within 7 years or even earlier, we must never think, okay, we've made it, we're #1, and therefore, that's it. Why? Countries will look to Barbados, as they've done in many other things before. Look at cricket. When we were #1 in cricket, we bragged, when Barbados cricket is strong, West Indies cricket is strong. But when you come to that place of success that you've determined is success, others will use you as a benchmark for inspiration. And whilst you're there patting yourselves on the back, they also too are coming full steam ahead to where you are and will surpass you. It's like a race. So we must now, as a country, have a firm collective belief that when we achieve this feat of number one in the world within the next 7 years, that we will continue to be number one. And it means, therefore, we will always be in a constant mode of transformation. And I really want to thank the Prime Minister for her vision, for naming the Ministry of Educational Transformation, which means two things are happening at the same time. One, we're continuing to roll out day-to-day education in the country. Schools must open, schools must teach our children with our teachers, infrastructural works, pedagogy, etc. The normal day-to-day running of the education sector in the country. At the same time, we're transforming that system. So you're doing two major things all at the same time. And that requires significant manpower, significant commitment. And how do I break that down in a basic way? It is like living in a wooden structure for a number of years. You still have to live, you still have to pay your bills. If there's a little leak in the house, you still have to patch it. But at the same time, you're transforming it from a wooden structure to a wall structure while still living in the house. That is, in essence, what we're doing. And therefore, the country is going through a mode now, not just of transformation, but rebuilding what, as I said, up to this point has served us well. But we have to now move forward and ensure that we can create not just a world-class education system, but one that puts young Barbadians on the cutting edge of development. And this is really about development. Oftentimes we focus on education within the lens of certificates and certification, and which school you went to, and how much CXCs you attain, how much CAPE and A-levels you attain. And whilst those things are good and necessary, they're not sufficient for the future of development of Barbados. And therefore, part of the transformation is to ensure at the earliest stage of a child's development that early childhood education is one that will be not just for a few, but universal access will be key. And you would have heard the government, as recent, as I said, as the ministerial statement, as recent as last night in New York, the Prime Minister would have indicated the same thing at the town hall, where she would have speaking to Barbadians there about the purpose and the benefit of early childhood education to all. And why is that? The science has shown that between the ages of 3 and the age of 5, what a child learns and what goes into their mind in those critical 2 to 3 years there benefits them for the rest of their life. And what do I mean by that in simple terms? When you teach them the key areas of play, of language, of the environment, their surroundings, it downloads into the part of the brain that helps them to unlock certain things long after, even in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Up to this point, we had nurseries, and of course nurseries have served us well. And there's a difference between early childhood education and sending a child to nursery. Or in other words, daycare. What we're now moving to is to ensure that your child in Barbados, once they attain the age of 3, will have teachers teaching them the strategic things that they will need to go on for the rest of their life. So when you look at our counterparts in Asia, so China, in particular South Korea, Singapore, those countries place a high premium of ensuring that those children have all the tools that they need to go on long beyond, even after primary school. And you see it. They're very strong in manufacturing, at scale, innovation, science, technology, construction, sport. Because why? The imagination is captured at that point. And it is one of the reasons why we've taken a deliberate decision to also introduce 2 things into our schools. One, chess at an early stage, where our children will be exposed to the rudiments of chess. Now, the purpose of that is not necessarily to have the next grandmaster of chess. If that happens, then that is a benefit. That's the point. It provides you with the ability to think critically, analytically, and to think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead of your current move. Not just in the context of chess, but within the context of life. And those societies which have integrated chess in schools have also seen the benefit. A couple weeks ago, I went to the United States for a meeting by the International Chess Federation, focusing exactly on that, the benefit of having chess in our schools. And I'm happy to report that the International Federation of Chess will be coming to Barbados this week to meet with me and my team to see how we roll out chess in our schools in Barbados. What is the purpose of that? We are, as an administration, deliberately making sure we give our children a global head start. Because the truth is, the competition isn't between St. Christopher and Shirley Chisholm and Gordon Walters. Yes, that's competition between schools. The real competition is how do we ensure that your grandchild, your godson, your niece, your nephew can compete with those in Saudi Arabia, China, Argentina, Rwanda, so that we are preparing them to be global leaders. What is Barbados' comparative advantage? We don't have, as I said, any large natural minerals, but Barbados has always been a country that has large intellect and large capability of leadership. And we must now be a country that can manufacture leadership, not just within the context of politics, but within the context of every endeavor that our citizens can imagine. So whether that be in sport, in technology, innovation, manufacturing, you name it, Barbados must be at the forefront. The region, the Caribbean, must be at the forefront. And we therefore have a historic duty to make sure that we prepare these young people for that. But it isn't just about the early childhood education and getting the children to have access to that. What we've done is to train hundreds of our teachers to be able to roll that out as well. Because the teachers are the bedrock of the education system. And I want to take this opportunity to commend our country's teachers for the hard work that they have done. The hard work which they continue to do. And to say to you also and to them how pleased I am and how much of a debt we owe them for the work that they did through those difficult times called COVID. Our teachers were at the forefront, having to move into a new environment digitally. But it also shows you about foresight. Foresight. At the time when our now Prime Minister was Minister of Education, in the 1990s, from 1994. Remember EduTech? And at the time, for political purposes, many on the other side and around the country tried to scoff at it and say, what is the purpose of this? And talking about making the children to learn online and having these devices. Prime Minister Motley, Minister of Education, Youth and Culture at the time, had the vision in 1994, 1995, 96. 30 years ago. Not 30 weeks, not 30 months. 30 plus years ago. To see down the road and around the corner and the bend. To realize that the future of education and development will require our citizens to move into a digital space and to be prepared for that. And therefore, had we as a country rallied even further, because it was a success, let's set the record straight. It was a success. But had we rallied as a country even further and had the administration, which came after us in 2008, taken it on and run with it, instead of doing all sorts of hanky-panky and other bits of mischief, we would have been a lot further as a country. And we would have been prepared for the eventuality that became COVID. But I'm not here to talk about the past, but to simply make a reference point that this party continues to be a party of vision, of going where no man has gone before, notwithstanding the challenges, notwithstanding the noise, but to focus and deliver and ensuring that one simple thing, creating a better life for our people. That is the Labour Party. And it therefore means that we must continue to ensure that we carry the flag of development, of prosperity for all in our country, inclusive development, budget after budget. You hear the Prime Minister not just talking about economic growth and the policies to ensure that growth is larger, but that growth is larger and inclusive for our people. And education is that cornerstone. And when you look at the primary level, and even before that, actually, let me go on, because I can't be in Christchurch and not talk about what happened this week with respect to the opening of the new Center of Excellence of the Maria Holder Trust of Center of Excellence for Early Childhood Education in Gall Hill. We opened it, and I was happy to do so also in the presence of our fellow Christchurch colleague, my MP. I still live in Christchurch, West Central, Adrian Medickford, who was there at the opening as well. But it's not just about the opening. It became a symbol and a tangible expression of the government's commitment to what we said in the ministerial statement a couple of weeks ago. And that's what I love about this party. We don't just talk policy and get up and say things. We deliver in what we propose to the people. And we, as a country, must be proud as we roll out further childhood education across Barbados. This is a new frontier in the development of Barbados. And now onto the primary level. It is about making sure that all of the schools in the country have sound and modern infrastructure, because let's face it, the infrastructure is one that lends to people being comfortable and learning in that environment. So a number of things are starting to happen already and will continue in earnest. One, the beautification of our schools. Our schools, by and large, are between 50 years old to 200 years old in terms of infrastructure. I repeat, our schools are by and large between 50 years old to 200 years old in terms of infrastructure. It therefore means if we're to modernize, if we're to make them fit for purpose for our students, our teachers, and to those who come into the schools, we have to be in a constant mode of refurbishment, and it can't only be during the summer period, which is what, 8 weeks? Because why? If we don't ensure that our schools are modernized constantly, and I'm happy that the Education Ministry has rolled out significantly this year a continued transformation of our infrastructure, not just waiting on the summer term, but throughout the terms on bank holidays, on weekends as well, so that we can hasten with pace the change in our schools. But two, the beautification is key. So a number of schools have already started to receive the beautification of landscaping, so that the schools look and feel the part of a modern infrastructural development. Landscaping is something, of course, we in Barbados are very good at. And part of it is not just to have landscapers from the communities, but also community development practitioners and groups must be able to work with us to be able to not only to build out, but to maintain that infrastructure as we go forward. So what the country is going to be seeing is a heightened and ramped up physical development program of our school plants in Barbados, making it modern. Because why? When you go to a place that looks and feels good, you thrive, you're comfortable. Our schools must now be in a mode of feeling like a campus. And therefore, the government has committed year after year, particularly since we've come to office, in ensuring that we can now transform the physical infrastructure of our schools. Now, in addition to that, when you look at the technology, as I said, we live in a very digital world, and digital literacy and literacy itself and numeracy is a key component of that transformation. So the first thing that we have to do in earnest, and we've already started it, and I've said it in Parliament, is that how do we ensure that every child in this country can read by the age of 7 years old? Every child in this country must be able to read by the age of 7 years old. Now, people say that is bold. Some people say that is ambitious. They're both necessary and critical if we're to move the needle forward to prepare our citizens for the world. Because let's face it, a lot of those who sometimes otherwise end up in our law courts and our Minister of Home Affairs, who also is a very seasoned and senior lawyer in this country, can tell you, a lot of the guys and girls who end up in our courts oftentimes end up there sometimes because of a number of factors, But one of the things that you see sometimes in schools as well is that children have a lot of attitudinal issues, not just because of what may be happening at home or whatever, but because they can't read, they can't write. Anything that you say to them, there's already that deficit in them, and they take it out in different ways. And therefore, people must not scoff at the fact that some of our children still have challenges with respect to reading. And it is therefore why the government is rolling out a very aggressive and deliberate literacy program for our children in Barbados. We're not taking it per chance. But it's not just about the children. As I said, yes, we're setting the target that by the age of 7, we're going to ensure that our children can read. But not every child has the same capability or ability. And for those who may not meet that target, we will continue to have systems that will ensure that they can do so by a reasonable age. And those adults who have long passed that, a rollout of an aggressive adult literacy program. But literacy in this day and age isn't just about the reading of a book or reading on a tablet. The digital world requires them now to navigate that space. And digital literacy in this era has to be one now where we prepare our people to navigate the world of the digital realities. And what does that look like? I mean, there's some challenges. If we're going to move, as we're doing, into an online environment, it means that our young people and their parents and their teachers and all those who use the system must be prepared for those who have a bit of mischief within their domain. What do I mean? You have hackers. You have people who will break into your accounts sometimes. You have people who will try to, given the fact that you're a child, try to lure you into things that you're otherwise not meant to be doing. And we have to now ensure that those children and their teachers and their parents and all who interface with that system are effectively prepared to understand what to do in that space. It's no different to, as the Prime Minister always says, teaching a child how to cross the road. Look left, look right before you cross the street. Use your eyes, use your ears before you use your feet. And perhaps some young person in Barbados should come up with some modern phrase or jingle or whatever that captures the same type of thing, but for the modern realities of the digital world. And we must now prepare our people in earnest for that. But in addition to digital literacy, not just the challenges, what are the opportunities? And therefore, it just can't be that our counterparts in Asia, North America, Europe are at the cutting edge of technology, and we are simply the users of that technology. The education system now has to prepare these young people and the citizens of the country to be able to think bold and critically, to try to analyze and to see what is a global challenge that I can solve. What is a global challenge that I can solve? And what is a global challenge that therefore I can solve through the creation of an app or technology that can be exported at scale? And that is how economies grow. If you look at the model of Singapore, you look at South Korea, certainly you look at China, those countries solve problems. And it's not just for their domestic consumption. Yes, the country that they're having benefits, but it's really for the rest of the world to benefit. Equally, Barbados' advantage, as I said, is what? Our intellect. And we must now turn our certificates and certification into modes of creation of wealth and ideas for the rest of the world, which drives Barbados' economy as a knowledge-based economy, backed and protected by intellectual property, and brings the revenue for our people to advance as well. This is the future of education, and this has to be certainly the future of Barbados going forward. Now, when you talk about numeracy, equally, it is important. Our people must be able to navigate numbers and not necessarily just quote Pythagoras' theorem. And I must confess that I, at school, I did reasonably well in that area. But a lot of that I don't use today in day-to-day reality. These devices can do that for you. But it's really the mastery of those things in everyday life and the application that is going to be critical. So whether you are doing physics, it is not about if you can quote Ohm's law in physics. It is really the application of Ohm's law not just in physics, but in day-to-day life. How do you use Ohm's law to treat the issues of solving climate? Infrastructure. So our people must now be exposed to new modes of learning and new modes of teaching. That is why the project-based learning that we're taking the country into is key. And I want to use that as a pivot into what I would have said recently in Parliament with respect to what has become, when people think education transformation before, they think about one thing, mainly, 11 plus. Thank you, Wilfred. They think about the 11 plus. And that is a very small, but important, but very small cog in this whole thing of education transformation. That, however, we've decided as a cabinet that from the beginning of the 2026 year going forward, children will then be assessed on a number of areas: English, math, social studies, civics, including citizenship, so that the assessment is not just a one-day, one-shot exam where you're under significant pressure and that determines where you go to school. But from class 3, you will have the opportunity through project-based learning to come in front of your class and to present different ideas, go and do different things on the outside, and your assessment is going to be done in a way that is meaningful, but innovative and fun, tapping into the talents and gifts that God has given our children. And then you go, yes, clap for that, of course. So it's done, therefore, over a 2-year period, taking away the undue pressure that has hitherto caused many of our people to feel the angst of the common entrance examination. And what does it do? It provides, therefore, a fairer placement of our children into schools across the country. But the challenge for us, however, has to be, how do we ensure that every single secondary school in Barbados is a school of choice? And I want to commend all of our secondary schools and their teams and their students who continue to give of their best. And why is this? The common entrance came out of a situation where, in Britain, they allocated what we currently now have as our system, but they have now moved past and long abolished our current mode. But for some reason, well, I know the reason, we've held on to the current formation with a badge of honor. But it does not produce what we need as a country. So yes, English and math and composition are critical components of learning. But God has given our people more than 3 narrow lenses of ability to focus on. So you may do very well in English, math, and composition, but if you ask somebody to do that in public speaking, some people can get it done. If you had to ask somebody to do it in languages, others may not be able to get it done in the same way. So we have to now find, which we've now found, a fairer, more broad-based, inclusive manner that allows for our children to, over 2 years, to have the opportunity, fairer, less stress, to do the same thing, the placement of our schools. But part of it also, the transformation journey, is to ensure that we review as we go forward. So as we go forward, we test and see, how is this working? How is it benefiting the students and the system and the country? And therefore, transformation, as I said, is a continuum. It is not a destination, it is a continuum. But of course, with key benchmarks around as we go forward, we pass, we take off, we reflect, and we go forward as well. But part of what excites me about this transformation is also at the secondary level. And I want to use this opportunity to talk about it. And before I get there, actually, I've heard a lot of comments online and memes and all sorts with respect to the naming or the changing of from classes to grades. And people saying that it is now about copying the United States. Nothing can be further from the truth. Those of you who know me very well will know that is not the case at all. And as a matter of fact, it is about ensuring that Barbados, as part of its broader international perspective and being part of the international community of education where it is all going, the world is now moving into that singular mode of recognition of grades, as it were. So the idea is, and some teachers said to me, Minister, I'm so happy about this, because oftentimes when they want to go abroad to train or to move from Barbados to go into another system, when the institutions that have to look at the accreditation, They oftentimes say, well, class 4, what does this mean? What were you doing? What is the age cohort? And it takes a lot longer to be able to do as well in doing that. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. So the harmonization and synchronization as well. It is really about ensuring that we put Barbados on an even firmer footing as part of that global community of education. Remember, we are in a global community. Barbados is not out there on Long Pond in a corner. No. We are a global leader, and leadership also means that you look inwardly to see what changes can be made that can be tweaked for the benefit of our people to be part of that global ecosystem of education. But the part that excites me, as I said, about the secondary school process right now, a number of changes are going to be made, particularly with respect to how we roll out our curriculum. And there's significant curriculum reform taking place, and the one that I always talk about. For a long time, when you go to secondary school, you have the music curriculum. When you're in first form, you tell the parents, this is the book list, these are the things that you need to buy, including a recorder. Freddie, remember when you had to use a recorder? Yes. You were great at it. I was dismal. Yeah. But whilst that's good, that will of course continue. But we've taken the decision, of course, we're going to be working with the National Cultural Foundation to roll out a broader perspective of the creative arts in school, where music, just clap for that, of course. Where music, of course, will be a component of that, and the classical type of music, yes, of course. But we also have to now ensure that music, through our culture and who we are, is now front and center in our people. So, in addition to the classical form, our students must be able to not only compose music, as they've been able to do before, and the scales and the notes and everything, but this is the country which has crop over. We host tons and tons of festivals, whether it be reggae and other festivals. But our children, hitherto, whilst in school, have never been able to produce beats. Can you imagine if a young student at Darrell Jordan, or Frederick Smith, or Harrison College, can produce a beat that Tion or Alison Hines or Lead Pipe can use in their endeavor? It just can't only be persons, for example, after school. So the idea is, one, we want to be able to retrofit our schools, and this, of course, should be a rolled out and phased approach, where our schools are equipped with actual music studios, where you learn how to produce beats. Second of all, where you master sound engineering, learning sound, not just in the studio, but also on the outside, the difference between inside and outside events and broadcasting. Thirdly and fourthly, especially for the lawyers, people like Wilfred, being able to do writers, so that when an artist comes from abroad into Barbados, or artists in Barbados want to go to a concert, they know these are the things that I will get when I go to perform, A down to Z. So you're giving our children real life skills in the industry even before they leave school. And this is what we're talking about, giving our children real life skills. But the exciting part continues. There are a number of different tracks that we're going to have to start to look at. So you have the business students, you have the students doing the arts, you have students doing the humanities and science. But there's nothing stopping us, and the ministry is working assiduously on this, particularly the curriculum team, where if you are in the arts, there should be every year a festival, a national festival, led and done by our students, where you say at the end of July, we will have a festival, a large festival. But every student who is in the arts will work towards producing the festival. That includes the booking of artists, ensuring that the stage is set, the ordering of the stage, the ordering of the equipment, the writers, all the different things, the components that you do in real life. Equally, those things must be graded. So you're not just getting a CXE, for example, in the arts, and of course the government is going to have conversation with CXE as our regional partner who administers the certification. But it's really about making sure, as I said, we provide our children with the certification, the skills, and the job experience before they leave school to be able to meet the demands of the economy going forward. Their business counterparts who are studying principles of business, of course, then will be meeting them to help plan, for example, that festival. So everybody's being focused according to their area, but with one ultimate goal of producing X. The science students, a massive science fair, so that you can now imagine what is the next frontier of science and creation of things, whether that be new gadgets, vehicles, treating the issues of climate. Yes, you're getting your CXE, but you're doing so in real life perspectives. Thirdly, and importantly, can I get a glass of water, please? Thank you. I forget this Christchurch East, though. And so, you all out here, let's take it to another level, boy. All the time. All the time. No, for sure. We never popped down at all. The third and important point is exposure. You've heard the Prime Minister talk about it. You've heard many of my cabinet colleagues talk about it, Wilfred, Chantal, Medic, Dugid. Our young people must be able to navigate the world, not just by reading what the world is like, or hearing about it or reading about it online, but we've taken a decision in the ministry, and I'm going to take it to cabinet shortly, so as to ensure that our young people between the ages of 15 and 17 are exposed to what the world is like. Now, what do I mean saying? As a young man, coming from humble beginnings, I started as a parish ambassador here in Christchurch, then went on to be national president for the Youth Council, CARICOM Youth Ambassador, etc., which led me to then travel the region and the world at a very young age. And it opened up a number of things in my life and exposed me to how the world works. And of course, I want to, as I look at my brother here, remembering Rudolph Smith as well, God rest his soul, who played a critical role in my journey as a young man. And I wish he were here today, but God had other plans. But Sherlock, I thank you also for your contribution in my life. Yeah. But what that did is that it allowed me to see the world and to understand how the world worked at a very early age. At the time, as a youth ambassador, of course, Prime Minister Arthur had to lead the responsibility for CSME, as every Prime Minister of Barbados does, of course, including now our Prime Minister. But what it did, you realize, okay, this is how the world works. These are the challenges. This is how you navigate. Can you imagine if we did the same thing for our children between the age of 15 to 17 for 1 month? So we're not sending them abroad to shop, no. But we're sending them around the world. Let's clap for that too. But the idea is, as part of the education transformation, is that notwithstanding where you are born or where you're from, we're sending every child, as I said, once it's settled cabinet policy, for a month to Jakarta or Dubai or to South Africa or wherever to see how the world works, learning things on punctuality, infrastructure, business, exposing them to the world, giving them a taste of what the world has to offer, but equally what they have to offer to the world. And when they come back, they download and Bayesianize those experiences. Can you imagine if we do that then for a generation? These young people then will be exposed to not just the world, but our country will have young people who are prepared and equipped for the world. Nowhere else in the region is there at the moment, or actually the Western Hemisphere, that systematic program of deliberately sending your children abroad to prepare them for the world. So as I said, yes, the pedagogy is being transformed. How teaching is delivered is being transformed. The infrastructure is being transformed. But the minds now is where we have to now catapult our people in being prepared for the world. But we go further. In creation of that knowledge-based economy, we recreate things through our ideas, both physical assets and intellectual assets. Again, we're going to take to cabinet shortly a paper which seeks to create a national trust for our young people to have access to at the age of 18. So up to this point, if you're a great artist or musician, you get an award at NIFCA, you get a pat on the back, you go in the paper, you say cheese, bravo, that's it. But that does not lend to your career apart from the acknowledgement of your skill. And we've made a determination within the ministry that Cabinet now has to consider the creation of that trust so that if you are the best artist in the world, not only should it be in a glass like this or at NIFCA being displayed, but we have to now marry our tourism sector and our young people together. A lot of them, for example, are very good in ensuring that they can create first-class pieces of furniture. I did a number of tours at our schools recently, and I could not believe that this is the sort of things that these young people are creating in school at this point in time. But a lot of what our hotels are using are imported from outside of the region, draining foreign exchange in many respects. So therefore, that marriage between the skill and the demands of the economy has to now coincide. But what that does, not just in terms of manufacturing, but the arts and different things, your ideas, once you can accrue the revenue, the idea is, and the proposal will be, to put that money on trust so that you can recoup it at the age of 18. Every student will have their national account. So if you want to expand or start a business, you draw down for the money you earned whilst you're being a student. If you want to put down for a small piece of land, same thing. So therefore, we're also giving economic enfranchisement of our students as well. So what we're doing, as I said, the school system now is to prepare our students for the world even before they leave school. So with business, exposure, and of course, a critical component will be, and I mentioned it in Parliament, the mandatory participation in civic organizations whilst in school. Our young people need to understand the importance of structured activity, not just as an extracurricular, which is optional, but now mandatory as well, as I outlined in Parliament, for you to be able to be doing things with not just the guides, but the Kiwanis and different institutions around the country. Because civic mindedness has to be at the core of who we are as a people, helping our people to understand their role to community, self, family, and to the nation abroad and domestic. So I've said a lot this evening, of course, which is a very summarized version of what we're doing, but the purpose and the focus and the message must be this. The government has and continues to place significant resources in education in Barbados. I'm proud to be a part of a government who sees it fit to not just provide that education, but to transform the education to prepare us further for the world, which continues to change at an incredibly rapid pace. How do we now hold our young people, notwithstanding the challenges? And I can't end this presentation without also talking about a critical challenge that we've had and the necessary restructuring that we'll have to do. There's no secret that our birth rate as a country continues to decline and decline fast. And this is a phenomenon happening over the last, 25, 30 years? Yeah. And we are seeing it more and more in the school system. So every year, particularly in recent years, in a few decades and in recent 5 years as well, the number of children taking the common entrance is falling. The number of students coming into primary schools is falling. And therefore, sometimes the country says, but why is it like that? The truth is, we are not getting as many children as we used to before. You can laugh at that, but it's true. And even if, I get involved in that, but even if, and I said it in the Senate at one point, maybe Chantal can remember this, but even if we had to encourage the entire country tonight at midnight to go and play their part, even if we had to encourage the entire country at midnight tonight for the next 4 months to put down Netflix, but do some chilling. All right? It will, yes, that manifestation will come in 9 months. Fine. But to add to the economy and to the society, that invariably will take 18 years for us to see the real change that we need. And these are real conversations that the party and the country and the government will have to have with the country over time, continually. Why? Because it has impact on a number of areas. So I mentioned education, but it also has impact over time on our national insurance and a number of different things. And it also leads to other issues, and of course we have our Minister of Home Affairs here. It has issues with respect to the need for immigration, manage migration. And of course he's going to deal with that, so I'm not getting involved in that now. But it is critical for us to understand the nexus between those challenges and our development prospects. So my point is this: we've never had a situation where we sent home our teachers. We've not sent home our teachers, certainly not this administration. And notwithstanding that, our numbers of children in the school system have declined. And therefore, the teacher-student ratio is one where we now have to look to see how do we ensure that we can now maximize and retrain our teachers in specific areas so as to meet that new demand and reality. These are the conversations that we have to have. These are the conversations that the other party refuses to have or acknowledge, but I understand. Politics for them is simply about throwing an egg and hoping that it will stick. But as a mature party, the oldest party in Barbados and the Caribbean, we will rise above continually and to make sure that this discourse is for the people and that they can understand why these things are necessary. So I want to thank all of you this evening, not just for coming out and to listening, but I want to implore you to take on the charge of not only understanding the transformation, and what the ministry will be doing is to be sending out different bits of nuggets on different thematics so that everybody can understand in simplified language. And for you to explain, we're going to have a number of community outreach programs in literacy, reading programs. I've already made a commitment on Tuesday when I was at the opening of the Maria Holder Center for Excellence, that in the reading programs across the country, I myself as minister will be going to join teachers unannounced, but going to class and also reading with our students, seeing how the programs are rolled out. Because as a minister, I've always made a commitment that I'm not just going to stay in the Alcipian complex and create policy and govern, but to get out there in the weeds and to see how is this thing being rolled out. And this is the last, I promise. This is the last. Part of the transformation also too is that our children must be exposed to a modern school meals department and service. I've had a meeting as recent as Friday, last week, and some other meetings as well, where the vision is to ensure that our children have not just first-class school meals, but that a modern school meals service which provides quality food, food that is nutritious, and that food that, of course, ensures that our children can learn and focus at school. But it's also about making sure that they also have a good culinary experience. When I was ambassador in Europe, and you look at the school meal service there, it is not just about the distribution of food. Those children are taught in the school meals system how to use a knife and fork, how to sit, how to eat, how to have conversation whilst having food. So the government now is looking to make sure that we have a modern school meal service that does all of these things as well. Because Barbadian children, as I said, we are preparing for what? The world, for their life. When they leave school, we must give them that global, not regional, not hemispheric, we must give them that global head start. And what is a head start? A little advantage over everybody else. And there's nothing wrong for us to do that. That's what we are mandated to do. To create what? Not a good life for our people, create a better life for our people. And I want to end on the point of taking this opportunity to publicly commend all of the workers before and now in our school meals system and department. They work hard, and they continue to do so Notwithstanding that there's some things that, of course, we need to tweak, and I've made some commitments to them on Friday, and we'll have those meetings continually. But we must ensure that all of those persons in our country who work for us and work for our children do so in a way that is befitting to them, a level of pride, and we can do so knowing that they have contributed to the benefit of our education system. So I give the country that assurance that we are going to work even further to make sure that our school meals department and the people who work there, who work very, very hard and are committed to giving them their due. And I said to them, the ministry is going to roll out a school meals department award system, which awards our school meals workers around the country. And of course, you'll have somebody from the ministry, at least one person, but with judges and adjudicators from outside the system, because you don't want a situation where I know this body, I know that body, and people saying, but you know, because you know this, but you know how it goes. An independent set of adjudicators based on well-published advanced criteria that allows for everybody to be able to participate and to be rewarded. We must make sure our people have a better life all the time. So I simply want to thank you and to encourage you and to look forward working with both Christchurch East and Christchurch South, and doing so for the benefit of the constituents of these two great constituencies. And I want to use this opportunity to also commend both Wilfred and Chantel, who not just from a constituency point of view, but certainly as their colleague in cabinet as a minister, continues to be very forceful in their pursuit of excellence for the people of Barbados in their ministerial portfolios. I can tell you that every Thursday they make it their business to go to cabinet and to go through line by line, paper by paper, looking for excellence to make sure that people are represented, not just now from, as I said, a constituency point of view, but that every single policy that we create as a government is one that the people of this country can be proud of. And I want to thank both of you for your excellence. So, you've not come here only to hear me. You have an MP in waiting who you want to hear from. Two. Well, you have an MP, but an MP in waiting. All right, so thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the Labour Party.
Or I'm foregoing the introduction. Allow me to start by, Chad, is your water? Allow me to start by thanking Chad for what was perhaps one of the most comprehensive presentations that you will ever hear at a branch meeting. So interesting, because of some slightly poor communication, Christchurch East and Christchurch South both scheduled their branch meetings for the same day, and both asked Chad to speak because we both thought that we needed to drill down, distill, and explain the educational path that Barbados is on. So poor Chad was left with a slight dilemma. He wanted to know exactly when he had to speak at each one so he could attend both. But I know somewhere deep in his heart, he was begging. He looked at me with them pleading eyes, right? I took that to mean, let's have a joint meeting and save him some stress, and save us all some stress. So it worked out perfectly. Chad, thank you. So I'm gonna keep it relatively brief. There are some things that I know people want clarification on that are pending that concern my ministry, and that is with respect to the new immigration policy and with respect to the free movement of certain CARICOM nationals that is due to start on the 1st of October, so I'll touch on that. But allow me to start by acknowledging something that happened recently. Within the last month, Barbados put on perhaps the best spectacle and the best festival we've ever had in the Caribbean. And don't what, turn off that fan for me, please. And note what I'm saying. It was the best festival, not in Barbados, not in the Eastern Caribbean, but I dare say that that was the best festival we have ever had anywhere in the Caribbean. It did not happen by accident. That's the reality. If you remember, we started to talk about Carry Festa, and we were gearing up for Carry Festa. The noise from the other side was, what you need Carry Festa for, right? What are we doing this for? What are we investing all this money in these things for, right? And we should be putting that money in roads, and we should be putting that money in schools, and we should be putting that money in all sorts of things. And they were hedging their bets against the fact that the task that we undertook was so mammoth that there was no way we could deliver on it. And everything in them was waiting for us to fail. Everything. When we had the first day, things were not quite ready. We had some supply chain issues. If you look at the Carry Festa village, and you all saw, anybody went? And you saw that tenting structure that went up there. Some of those things were delayed. They were delayed in shipment. We had to reroute. We had to source other things. They had to fly in some at the end. But we knew we were going to get it done. But the rest of them were betting against it. On the first day, they were cutting it close because they had some rain as well. On the first day, everything was not ready. I'll be frank. Everything was not ready. It did not open on the first day. On the second morning, we had some slight issues. And if you hear how they were cutting our tail, cutting the government's tail over the first day and the second morning, it opened about 11 o'clock the Saturday morning. And a few people came through. But then the people that came through started to post. They could not believe what they saw when they came through. And understand the rain was falling. So all the talk about the rain and come through them things, they can flood out the thing and wash away people's stall. Obviously they think we're them. When we design, we know we live in a Barbados that rains. We know we live in a Barbados that's get rain. We in the middle of hurricane season, anything going up got to contemplate rain. It rained bad. The first, I want to skin out Chantel business. But Chantel called me in a panic to come down. She said, Wilfred, we almost got it. We just need people in here. We need people in here. Right? So call some people who you know would actually come down. I said, Chantel, relax yourself. Build it. They can come. The first set of people walked through there. If you saw the eyes open wide, and they start to take the selfies. And then people start to post. And then that became a thing that everybody coming through had to post. You understand that by the night, and it was burst. It was burst. And all the talk about the next day was the fact that somebody ain't had electricity the morning, or the ice didn't come, or some foolishness like that. By the third day, when everything was in place, they shut up. Because somebody said to somebody else, y'all be very foolish. If you look at how the public is receiving what is going on up there, I would advise one to stop. And then every single day after that was burst. I know because I actually got involved in trying to help some vendors solo. People brought in their stuff from overseas, people that are accustomed displaying at festivals, and they brought what they thought was enough stuff for a week. The Jamaican people, kuya, sell out in 2 days. In 2 days. I had to go back and bring in stuff. Other people sold out. The Vincentian people brought what they thought was the most lobsters that they figured that when they were done, they can sell them off cheap in Barbados. What ain't get cooked. They run out of food. Everything was burst. But that was just the village. But let me go past the village. Y'all went to the Richard Stout Amphitheater. You see that? Y'all went to the one up, I call it the Ark. Go ahead, look like an ark. Right? But y'all went to the one up by Newton. You see that? Can you believe all of that was constructed in the time that it was constructed and delivered in the way it was delivered? Well, them couldn't believe that neither. I went from one event. I was in the village that had about 10 to 15,000 people in there for something. 10 to 15,000 people. I left and I said to Chantel, look, truthfully, let me go and show my face crossed by the Richard Stout Amphitheater, because with this many people here, they're probably a bit sparse, right? So let me go and show my face and hold on fort. I left 15,000 people in the village and went cross and bought about 20,000 in the amphitheater. And that happened for everything. There were what, 300 events? Over 300 events in that space of time, and almost everything was sold out. It is necessary for me to say this for a reason. I can get a reason at the end. We saw performances of the top class. You could get Machel Montano and Skinny Fabulous and all of them anywhere else for $50? $50? What if you're going to get Steel Pulse in a concert for $50? Chantel, I will say this to you. My sister, I have never been as proud of what we as Barbadians could accomplish given the constraints, given the time frame, and given the negativity that people wanted to pelt in our direction. Now, what bothered me is I went to everything. I was burnt out, boy. I went to everything. I ain't see the top dog from the other side at nothing. I ain't see none of them who trying to run for public office at nothing. To me, is a no-brainer. If they got events going on in Barbados that got the whole of Barbados, the marish and the parish, they got everybody, the saint and the sinner, everybody was there. If you chose to absent yourself as a collective who is seeking office from what was the largest social event in the history of Barbados, it says you are not about Barbadians, you are about yourself. I'm glad they stopped home, because the people got to see their true colors. As me and Chantel and the Prime Minister and Chad and everybody went buying up the stuff by Bajan designers, buying the rum punch from wherever it was, St. Vincent, eating the lobster from St. Vincent, eating the curry goat from Jamaica. My wife bought a number of dresses. We went and looked at Bajan designers and Bajan models. We bought artwork, and not just us. The whole of Barbados went. The people of Barbados got to see who is really supporting them, and got to see. Get clap for that. And more importantly, they got to see who was not prepared to put the hand in the pocket and give a fella $1, who was not prepared to support the persons that they're going to ask for a vote. All I can say, when that time come, remember who was there supporting. Let me wrap this part up, because I got a lot more to say. But I will save that for the place where the fella insists on sitting opposite me and skinning his teeth. Where the fella insists on sitting opposite me, and anytime I got to say anything, he can strips. And if I happen to leave the chamber, he just say, thank God. Oh, y'all didn't hear it? When he is speaking, if I happen to leave, right, he said, thank God. If I come back in, I'm dead serious. I will save it for then, because I am going to stick it in his craw. He must hear it where it becomes a permanent record in the history of Barbados. He must hear it and know it and regret every single day he did not put on his one shirt and go and support anybody. He must hear it and read it and remember it when he sees performers out there who are doing well and know in his heart of heart he did not even turn up once to get anybody a round of applause or a clap. I will save it for then. But because I am a decent fella, and my mother raised me a certain way, and Chad delivered such a spectacular address that actually has me feeling so good to raise my standard today, I can park that one side and come back to that at the right time. So let me go on to what it was that I was asked to speak about. Everybody knows that we are about to embark upon what actually made sense. Free movement in the CARICOM perspective. Now, Chad spoke about it, and Chad said that I don't know if he was doing a hypothetical or if he was actually encouraging everybody to leave here before midnight. But the point is that we have a problem. We have a problem. The population of Barbados is not enough to sustain Barbados. We have an aging population. I'm aware of that. It's not anecdotal, it's empirical. We know we have an aging population. At a certain point in time, if money is not going into the NIS from people who are of working age or productive age, then it will become impossible to sustain those who require the pensions. That's the reality. Pretense ain't political, it exists, it's a fact. What do we do about it? As Chad said, if even we had an explosion, if even people started to try hard to create larger families all now, you can't see any benefit from that. The first tangible benefit is when the 18-year-old starts to work and starts to pay NAS. That's 18 years from now. We cannot wait for 18 years. We took a decision a while ago to do what is called managed migration, a managed migration policy. That is captured in our new immigration legislation, the draft immigration legislation, and our new citizenship legislation. We are making it easier for the persons that we want, hear what I'm saying, for the persons that we want to call Barbados their home. So there is a fair among people that it can be a free-for-all, that we opening the borders and everybody can come, and that the criminals can come here. It might surprise all of y'all to know that when people reach the airport in Barbados and they're stopped, ain't that we take a decision when they land here to stop them? We know who's on that plane before the plane gets here. So half the time when people are stopped, it's because we were waiting for you to land, to stop you, and put you back on a plane to go back out. So it is not that people are going to turn it here and catch us by surprise. Those days of paper are gone. Everybody, when you leave in a plane, if you get on a plane in the United States, in Miami, and you leave to come to Barbados, I think that manifest has to be given once the plane is 40 minutes in the air. Whoever on that plane, it got to get sent to Barbados. It got to come. At which point we do security vetting. Very quickly, you run it through the computer. Right? You run it through Interpol, you run it through all the databases. And it is going to flag that this person overstayed. They were in Miami and they overstayed for 2 days. It's going to flag that this person got deported from wherever. It's going to flag that this person had a charge for X. So by the time you land here, we know, by the time you present your passport and you swipe it, it flashes that that's the person. You don't realize when people get pulled out of a line at customs, you be seeing 200 people going, and at this point are you. You come. We know it's you. We know why we want you. So people don't have to fear that all and sundry are going to get into Barbados. And understand something else. The only body who has a right as of right to come into Barbados is a citizen of Barbados. That's the only person. Everybody else is subject to permission from the country. So even the persons who are coming in on the free movement, that's St. Vincent, Belize, Dominica, right? And Barbados is the fourth country. Yes, you can come. If you are an acceptable person, you can come in. You can stay as long as you want. You can work. You can leave and go and come back in. If you want to bring your family, and they're also acceptable people, and I'm going to explain acceptable. This is snobbery. I'm just using a word I can easily explain going forward. You get to live and operate in Barbados as a Bajan would, because we have a reciprocal arrangement. If a Bajan decides to pick up and go to Dominica, the same courtesies will extend to the Bajan. If, however, you breach our laws while you're here, you'll be deported. And you can't come back until that deportation order is lifted. If you are a known drug dealer in your country, and you come here, you'll be stopped at the border and said, you are not a permitted person. Go back. If you do not have those strikes against you, if you are not subject to deportation order, you're not flagged as a person who's prohibited, if you got a conviction, if they suspect you're involved in narcotics trafficking, if they suspect that you're involved in insurgent activities, whatnot, if you're on a watch list, right? Once you're not one, then people, then come and work, come and stay, come and enjoy yourself, go and come again. For all the Barbadians who, there's a lot of fear-mongering going on. So the first thing that people are saying is that you can't control who comes into your country. That is foolishness, as I just explained. The next one is saying that people are going to come here and take up your jobs, right? And take up jobs. It is reciprocal. As it stands now under the CARICOM Skilled Nationals regime, it used to be professionals who studied at UE. So it started out being degree holders, like lawyers, doctors, whatever. It went from there to other persons, agricultural laborers, and it was expanded for domestic help, whatnot. Pretty much right now as it stands, artists, and pretty much right now as it stands, if you have a marketable skill under the Skilled Nationals, you could come. We have not had the flood of persons taking over our country that people expect. We have not had it, and it pretty much exists now. What we are now saying is that in relation to Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent, you don't even got to go through the Skilled National registration. We accept you, you accept us, come. Come and go as you please. So it is the exact same thing that's happening with CARICOM, except we're now taking out that other layer of the Skilled National certification, because the Skilled National certification, we have people engaging in fraud in relation to that as well. You have people who find themselves in Barbados who enter into programs, who get a Skilled National certification that, quite frankly, some of them people can get arrested. We have our eye on some of you, right? Some fraudulent certifications are going on. We're taking away that. You don't got to defraud anybody. If you got a clean character, you come here to try to improve yourself, to try to improve Barbados, come, because we are underpopulated. we must not forget the reason that we are doing this. We are dangerously underpopulated. Right now, anybody here doing any renovations for a house or building a house, anything like that? Anybody? One, anybody? Two, three, good. Four. You know how hard it is to find a laborer? I am currently doing renovations at my house. They were supposed to be done in June. Often the body don't come because the contractor trying hard. He's a good contractor, but he trying hard to balance my job with Ricardo's job, with Lana's job, with Lizelle's job, moving the people. If I quarrel real bad, he's taking people and putting them in my house for 2 or 3 days to shut me up. As I get back comfortable, they're gone again. We have a shortage of skills in Barbados. That's the reality. There's a shortage of skills in Barbados. Somebody came to immigration and they wanted a live-in nanny. They wanted a live-in person to cook, clean, and take care of their children. Somebody objected to that when that ad appeared for the work permit. I said, all right, let me see who in Barbados are playing. Not a fella. Not a fella. If you, for some reason, Jamaicans do it, a lot other people do it, people from the States or Europe coming down here want to bring their nanny with them. You cannot find a Bajan willing to pick up and go and live at somebody else's house to take care of the children or whatnot. They want to go home on the evening. Times have changed. The jobs and job requirements have changed. And I keep saying to Bajans, think of the opportunities. Chad spoke about the fact that we have, our strong point is education of our people. Barbados probably has the most educated workforce in the entire Caribbean. We probably do. We probably do. You could put a Bajan to handle most anything, right? Because we have a basic standard of education. Why are we so afraid to take that somewhere else? You can't find a job here. You got your degree, and people saying that they come out through you when they got degrees and they can't find a job. Okay, if you can't find a job in Barbados because that level is saturated, go to St. Vincent, go to Dominica, go to Belize, where there might be opportunities you do not even contemplate. I don't want to talk too long because I see the food over there. They got some drinks, and as y'all all know, Christchurch East meetings tend to be a bit more of a social event. We talk about what it is that we have to talk about, but then we fellowship afterwards. And I'm seeing some of the fellowshippers in the back like this, like, yes, Adrian Watkins, I can see you. Getting hot and thirsty. So I'm going to wrap up. And what I'm going to do, just to make this, I'm going to take 3 questions. So anybody has anything that they want to ask in respect of the managed migration policy, in respect to the CARICOM, free movement, whatnot, please ask me. 3 questions. I explained it so well and nobody got to ask. Yes, sir.
Those who are migrating from St. Vincent, Belize, Dominica, and coming here to Barbados to work, you mentioned laborers and people with artistic skill set, artisans, masons. When they come here, do they have to register what they do or what they're looking to do? And then can people like myself come and get what I do?
So no, they don't have to register. So understand, with the Skill National Certification, you have to register, right? Those persons can come and go, like if you're on a bus. If I catch on a bus and I want to go in St. Lucie and visit somebody, I get on the bus again in St. Lucie and pick up anybody says sleep there. They can come and go as they please. They don't have to register their skills. Obviously, if you come in looking for a job, it might be of interest to you to register with the jobs registry that has been recently created. That is, we use it in conjunction with the work permit applications to make sure we're trying to give Bajans and Bajan residents the advantage. They must get first choice at jobs before we look to bring in people from overseas. But the people don't have to register. But it would make sense if you come in looking to work in a sector, right, that you would register to give yourself the best chance of getting a job. But more than that, let's be practical. I am not going to pick up myself. My support system is here in Barbados. My mother here, my father here, my sister here, my friends here, people they call uncle, people they call aunt, my second mother here. I am not going to pick up myself and go to St. Vincent or Belize or Dominica unless I go in there for a job. Unless I have found a job that I'm going to. Unless I have sufficient money to support myself for a little while, I'm not going to pick up and go. We've not seen that flood even happening here with people who are entitled to move. Even the skilled nationals. Most of them, when they come, they're coming to a job. Having sourced a job, they know what they're coming to work in, that they're coming, land in Barbados and looking around because your support system is not there. Right? You'll be very unhappy. You will come, land, can't maintain yourself where you're looking and go get back on the plane and go.
Based on what you just said, it might be one or two of them that would turn to an agency or somebody that they know and say, listen, I want to help, but I want to be coming into the job, right? And you want me earning as soon as possible.
So,
Then what my thing is now, how would you connect them, those who want to come down looking for a job and say, I can walk over and I can come into a job. Just thought of myself looking for a carpenter and a carpenter coming to the same thing.
so we are starting on October the 1st. Do not expect you can see 1,000 people coming on October the 1st. The systems are going to work themselves out. That is the start. There has to be a start date. As it progresses, you're actually probably going to see that. You can see people headhunting people from other countries because they know there are no issues, there's no work permit, ain't no nothing. If I can't find a carpenter, I will ask my friend in St. Vincent, you got a good carpenter? I will call the man and say, Skipper, come down here for a month and do something for me. Right? And he knows he can come freely and easily and slip into the job. Do not expect a flood of people. These systems are going to work themselves out. Let us also be real practical about something. Barbados has done well. We have done well under Prime Minister Motley. We came out of the IMF program with flying colors. We, having sustained 20-something downgrades, have gotten ourselves back up to marketable quality, right? We have done well. Chad has jumped in with education. Santi is trying to pave the roads. A number of houses were built through housing. Culture has exploded, right? We have done well. As well as we have done, we are 166 square miles with 270,000 people. There is a natural cap that we cannot go past unless we get assistance. And that applies to every other country in the Caribbean. At some point in time, we're going to have discussions as to what the future looks like for the Caribbean. We're going to have to make CARICOM more than a name. It must necessarily happen. You see what's happening with our brothers and sisters in the north? One man decides everything. He decides whether you get terrorists, whether you don't get terrorists. He decides whether your politicians travel or they don't travel. He decides whether you get assistance or you don't get assistance. One person. And while you have to bow and scrape when you're one country, imagine if you were 10 countries, 11 countries, 12 countries as a legitimate bloc who honor the idea that CARICOM is, who are prepared to toe the line and vote together so that you trouble one, you trouble all. The only way for us to really fulfill our potential as a Caribbean people is if we do it united. The Prime Minister sent me to say this, right? And I am speaking, this is me talking to Wuna as to what makes sense. The only way that we can survive is people can travel freely within the Caribbean, all of us. If your laws are almost the same as my laws, if we got the same court, if we got the same values, if we got access to the same education or similar education. When Barbados raises, we can't raise and don't look back. If we raise, we got to raise and share. If what Chad is trying to do with the education transformation takes off, we'd be selfish to hold it to ourselves. The best thing to do is share our experiences. Let us look at what we have. Jamaica just went to the World Championships. Jamaica was disappointed in their performance at the World Championships. They got a set of medals, and they're disappointed. Quite frankly, the best hope for our athletics is for us to be able to have integration programs where some of them come down here and train, some of us go up and train. We understand that the world is bigger than Barbados. That's why this policy with children going to see what's overseas. Until you leave this rock, you have no idea what the world is about. You don't know. In order for us to get ahead and compete in a global market, we have to expand our minds to contemplate what else is out there. We talk about public transport, we talk about transport board buses and TAP and ZRs. They got trains. A lot of Bajans never saw a train. I get confused in a subway. I can be honest with you. I get confused in a subway because that's not my lived reality. We need to understand there's more out there. Stop limiting ourselves to the 166 square miles. Let Bajans carry their experiences outside and bring back experiences to Barbados. Anyway, last question. Anybody? Going once, going twice. Chantal, yes, sir.
Any other countries within the CARICOM region showing interest in signing on to the agreement?
Interest is not my concern. I'm concerned about the deal being done. Right? The countries who have stepped up and said this is where we see ourselves going as a unit, then they have done what they have to done. They recognize that we come from a similar background. We might speak with a slightly different accent, but we come from similar backgrounds. Most of us, our people came here on boats, not willingly. Right? We come from similar backgrounds. We have similar backgrounds. We have similar Christian upbringings. We tend to almost eat the same foods. And if I try something from a Caribbean territory I never tried before, chances are if they like it there and I taste it, I realize why they like it there. Right? So, quite frankly, I do believe that as this system starts to work, you're going to see others looking to sign on, because that's how it goes. It's always the brave few, and then people wait to see, hedge the bets, try to see if it works, and then if it works, everybody wants to jump on. All right? So, thank you for that, Chantal. I will not keep you any further. I will just say this last thing. Right now, all of your branches are asking you all to clean a list. Right? And this is not about elections. It will eventually be about elections, but it's not for election purposes. The fact is, we have a list, an electoral list that suggests that over 370,000 people in Barbados. We know that's not so. We know. We don't take the deceased persons off the list, and we have not had a great instance of it, but quite frankly, I don't want to be voting. No, seriously. So we're doing an enumeration exercise right now. It is important for those of us in branches to take the list and look at our areas. See who still lives there, who does not live there, see who is dead, who moved out, who gone overseas, who will not be available. Because I would tell you, the value of this came in when we did Chad's election. I had Lower Carrollton. They had a set of people listed for this area. And when we went on, we couldn't find anybody. You know why? Because everybody in that area had moved out and put up their houses for Airbnb because the tourists wanted it more than them. So you had a list with people, and we trying to find the votes for Chad, but we can't find it because they don't live there. So the reality is, do you want to be catching yourself sometime later trying to figure out if somebody live at this house or not, or still live in the constituency? We could do it now. It's an enumeration exercise going on now. Chances are the Dems doing it, and we have to do it too. We have to clean our list so we actually know when the voters list comes out that this is representative of the people in Christchurch East or Christchurch South or St. James North or whatnot. So I'm asking you all to please work with your MPs. put aside some time. Most of us in here are members of a political party, and that means something. It means we have said we have chosen to identify. We ain't gonna hide. There's some people who have not chosen to identify and they don't want to come out there as a B. That's all right. But for those who seek office within branches, for those who seek office within the party, for those who expect the party to help you because you are a member of the party, then this is the time to step up and help your MPs. All right? CBC don't care that. But that's in-house. He's a good fella. So please, for the next couple months, this is serious, serious work because we need to know who actually really do live in our constituency. So having said all of that, thank you all. It is good to see you also engaged. It is slightly late, but we had a fantastic presentation from Chad. I tried my best to explain to you where we're going with the free movement within CARICOM, and I will turn you over to the star girl, one of the hardest working ministers, to the flavor of the month, to the face, one of the faces of CARIFESTA, to the minister responsible for culture, guarding our cultural heritage, expanding our cultural offerings, promoting Barbados in the global landscape in relation to culture, and are excellent in that sphere. I want to bring up my neighbor, my friend, my colleague, and the Minister of Culture, and most importantly, the next MP for Christchurch South, Chantal Monroe-Knight.
Thank you, Wilfred. You took away my branch president's, I'm sure that he had something prepared, but I know you give way to Wilfred for that. But no, when you're the last batsman coming up on a wicket that has been playing well, and when the batsmen before you have been hitting shots all over the field, you don't linger, right? You don't linger. You follow the pattern and you end with a flourish. And certainly I would not want to deprive the social gathering of Christchurch East. I need to make sure, Wilfred, that I will be invited back again, and that South and East will continue to have our joint branch meetings. I must also say to you that I'm feeling a little bit sentimental this evening. It was August 31st last year, right here at St. Christopher's, where I won my nomination, right here in the East with friends. And over that year that Christchurch South has welcomed me, I found family, I found friends, I found community. When I started, if I say to you that my commitment to Christchurch South was strong, it has only grown stronger. As I've walked through Christchurch South and the people that I have met, all that it has done is to reinforce for me that in Barbados, we have some of the strongest and most resilient people anywhere. There is a narrative that if you listen to it, that would suggest that Barbados, nothing is working. Everybody is not doing well. But when you walk across Barbados, and when you talk to people, and when you interact with people, and yes, well, everything may not be going well, there is such a spirit. There is such a spirit that you see on the ground for people who believe in Barbados. For people who will tell you, I ain't want nothing. But once you show up, I good. I met a young man just the other day. His name was Kevin. Kevin got about 3 businesses. Hardworking, disciplined. Told me about his upbringing and what his father put in him that continues to remain in him. And as I talked to Kevin, and again, the narrative that we got in this island about young people and young men and the violence. There are many more Kevins in our communities. There are young people out there who are working hard, putting their hands to the plow, and working to build Barbados. And that is why I am proud to be on this journey for Christchurch South and with the Barbados Labour Party. Chad, you said it. There is something about the Barbados Labour Party way and how we do camaraderie and how we seek to build community that nobody else, not them, know how to do. Because even though internally, yes, we may got some isms and schisms, when it comes to building nation and when it comes to putting hands to the plow, the Barbados Labour Party gets it done when we come together. And Chad, that lesson was reinforced for me in your by-election. Because there was nothing sweeter than seeing the Barbados Labour Party machinery come together. Ordinary people leaving their houses from wherever to come down to support a colleague. We got sacrifices. I know my team, sometimes we ain't eat on a Sunday. We out early, sun hot, but we doing it for Chad. We're doing it for the Barbados Labour Party. We're doing it for nation because we understand that when one is in, it is better for Barbados. When one is in, it is better for Barbados. I also want to thank Wilfred and all of my other colleagues from Christchurch for continuing to support me and to embrace me and continue to embrace me as well. You know, coming into the Barbados Labour Party family, coming into politics, coming into Christchurch South, it does need a little support, particularly when you're a woman. And I have not lacked that support. I have not lacked that support. Christchurch East, one of like my family thing. Christchurch East, I belong to one belong to me. All the way, supporting one another all the way. Like I said, I'm not going to keep you long, but I want to talk about two things in particular. And Wilfred started to talk about Carrie Festa a little bit. But I want to remind all of us that the Division of Culture not only delivered Carrie Festa, we delivered a successful crop over. Everybody remember crop over? We delivered in the midst of Carrie Festa, the season of emancipation as well. And we are delivering regathering as well. All of that we have been doing in culture. And NIFCA that is coming up. And it is part of the Barbados Labour Party way because we have never been one-dimensional. We've always understood as a party that if we can build national identity, that if we can allow Barbadians to understand who they are and to have a sense of pride in that identity, that if we can ensure that Barbadians understand and feel like the fields and hills belong to them, that it is that national pride and sense of belonging that will then propel us, Chad, as you said, further to be global citizens. And that is what we have been doing. I want us to remember that it was this Barbados Labour Party who put up the statue for Bassado. I want us to remember that it was this Barbados Labour Party in 2007 that erected the statue to who? Barrodo. Because we don't cannibalize politics when it comes to national. I want us to remember that it was this Barbados Labour Party that started National Heroes Day, celebrating our heroes and people who have done well. So there is nobody that can tell us about people and working for people and what it takes to build a nation. That it is more than an economy, like if it is something new. It is part of the Barbados Labour Party DNA. That L for Labour in the Barbados Labour Party, that means people and working class people, still means something for the Barbados Labour Party, unlike them. And it is for that reason that the Prime Minister signaled early on to us, and I say us in the Vision of Culture, that we will be hosting Carifesta in Barbados. And I remember when Prime Minister said it, I was like, okay, good, we're gonna host Carifesta. But we didn't just host Carifesta. We didn't just host, as Wilfred said, one of the biggest festivals. Carifesta was an investment in people, in culture, in building national identity that will continue to pay off, I'm telling you, Chad, perhaps for the next 18 years. Because already 2 days after Carifesta, my phone was ringing off the hook. 2 days after Carifesta, Wilfred didn't give me a rest. I had vendors who were at the Grand Market. A vendor from Tobago who called and said, Minister, I want to set up a storefront here in Barbados. What do I need to do? Already, people who were here for Carifesta in the moment saying, we're coming back here in Barbados to invest. The guy from Kuya in Jamaica calling me 3 times all the time saying, we're coming back too. We want to have pop-up shops here. We want to know when the next festival going to be in Barbados. And I hold in my head, I said, not again, not so soon. Give me a break, give me 3 months. But they are ready to come back to Barbados. That is long-term investment. Carifesta in Barbados had 18.2 million global views. When I think that it was just about Barbados and even the region, 18.2 million people from across the globe tuned in to Carifesta. We have people who saw Carifesta, and because of that, already calling and saying they are coming back, whether they're coming back for workshops, whether they're coming back to invest, so much so that we believe we are going to have to do a special program around the post-Carifesta investments that are going to be sold in Barbados. And we did that deliberately. It wasn't by accident. Some of you may not have realized, but if you went to some of the plays, you would have noted that we put Barbadian young people, actors, in those international plays alongside those international actors because we were creating a deposit. If you went up, as Wilfred said, to the Ark and Mansa Musa, you all know that that choir, that the song so sweet, they made up of Bajans. Want to know that the dancers that was out there, Bajans. That we had directors as well that were also working with the international crew from Mansa Musa. It happened not only in Mansa Musa, it happened in 10 to 1. And it was deliberate because we understood that Carifesta, like I keep saying, had to make a deposit and an investment for Barbados. But we did not only take Carifesta to the Grand Market, Wilfred, and to the big shows. Many of you may not know, but we took Carifesta into children's homes. We did 2 children's homes. We did an old people's home. And in St. Andrew, we had a village fair for Carifesta as well, taking Carifesta into communities. Deliberate, because we understood again that unless people connected with Carifesta at the grassroots level, unless it was felt by people who could not come out to the Grand Market, that we needed to be able to take Carifesta to them. And again, deliberate. We have art installations throughout Barbados through Carifesta that some of us didn't get to see because I didn't get to see any. And we are now thinking about doing a tour so that those of you who were not able to experience those art installations in communities will be able to do so as part of what happens post Carifesta. And that will continue again. So that when the questions are asked about how much it costs, and we will respond to that, let's flip the narrative and ask, how much did it benefit? 450 youth volunteers we had in Carifesta. 450 young people trained that could be deployed at any international event. Regional, international, Barbados will host again. We trained 50 green volunteers as well. 50 young people, again, that understand how to connect events with sustainability. Most of you, if you went to the Grand Market, would see that we had SDG signage. If you saw that as well, because we, again, ensured that Carifesta was not standing by itself, but that, again, that we could ensure sustainability and also, as well, to let Bajans connect with the overarching developments that we were doing. So that Carifesta has finished. But the outpouring for Carifesta will continue for decades and continue not to benefit, because in order to say the benefits just come to the big man. Carifesta benefit everybody. Like Wilfred, I was at the Grand Market. I spent a little bit too much money, but anyhow, we ain't gonna talk about that. But there were Barbadians, and I am not saying that everybody had the biggest success. But I remember meeting a Barbadian who told me that she had to close down her own storefront in Barbados to service the demand at Carifesta. I met a Trinidadian who ran me down, like literally was walking away with my huffing and puffing, because she said, I need to get Barbadian products in my store in Trinidad. Who can them benefits? Who can those long-term benefits? But that is just one part, like I said, of what we have been doing in culture, in building national identity. Next month, Christchurch will have what? When I know Christchurch will have what? We will have regathering. We talked about it earlier. Christchurch will have regathering. A big one of the biggest. All them, listen, all the rest of the parishes talking about them is the best, and them is the sweetest, and them got this, and then got, all respect to St. James, all respect to St. James, I with you. Yeah, but Christchurch, we's the Mecca. Christchurch, we's the Mecca. We got some of everything that they got. You will find it in Christchurch. And more, and more. But regathering fundamentally is about bringing our communities back together. It is about showcasing what we do best and what we have best and the excellence that we have within our communities. That is what regathering is about. That is, again, part of building that cultural identity, that national identity, part of preserving our heritage, part of reminding us as Barbadians who we are. And I know that you would have heard a little bit about what regathering in Christchurch will be about, Christchurch East and Christchurch South. But I want to say one thing to you, because I gotta wear my hat. We will make sure that we can put the Christ in Christchurch regathering. We will be starting one of the first big events that we will be having is a gospel concert in the Bay Gardens. Again, bringing all of the churches around Christchurch South and some others to make sure, again, that we got the Spirit of the Lord over this parish. Yes? And I know that the churches in the community, St. Christopher's is leading it, will also on the 26th be bringing all of the churches again together for a major concert that they will be having down in Silver Sands. And what we are saying, yes, woo. And we are intending as well to make sure that we honor the fisher folk in Christchurch. We'll be putting up a wall of honor in the fish market. Again, in order to ensure ordinary people are recognized. Ordinary people are recognized. As much as the narrative is that we are about the big people, we ain't got to keep the noise, you know. The record always speaks for itself. The record always speaks for itself. And the record for the Barbados Labour Party, and the record of what we will do in Christchurch South as part of Regathering will continue to show that. I want to close by issuing a challenge for all of us, Wilfred. Issuing a challenge for all of us. Yeah? The Barbados that we want, the Barbados that we need to be able to compete in the globe, that we need in order to make sure that we can keep pressing forward. The Barbados that needs to continue to transform has to start in our communities. It has to start with us. It has to start with our own leadership and our own agency. One of the things that I am passionate about, Wilfred, is making sure that we can build communities that can work together through volunteerism to be able to address some of the challenges that we have in our streets, in our districts. Because sometimes, and I can be honest, Wilfred, sometimes the machinery of the public service don't move as quickly as we need it to. Yeah, sometimes it is be real slow. But even as that machinery moves, and even as we move to transform, because that's what the Prime Minister has tasked us to do, this is the year, the next couple of years of dealing with the small things. That within our communities, that this is the time that we band together to be able to create our solutions ourselves sometimes. And I want to commit myself, Christchurch South, and my Christchurch East family to doing just that. To walk in with you, to address those little things, to build in with you once you are willing to come along. Those communities of people that will come out to help fix a school. Anybody with me? Yeah. Come out to help clear the bush for the old person that can't do it themselves. That is community. That's what we do. That's how things will change. That is how we can begin to flip the narrative. And that is the challenge before all of us. Christchurch South, Christchurch East, family. Christchurch South, Christchurch East, family. Barbados Labour Party, family. This is a family that stays together. Yes? This is a family that will win together. Yes? And this is a family that will build this nation together. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Isn't she?